Good morning, kids. It is Thursday, October 1st, and we are on our last day, day 4 of Rikki, Tikki, Tavi. And yesterday, your work or your homework was once we finished reading, you were to fill out the plot diagram to the best of your ability on your own in preparation for us going over it today. And it's going to be just like we did for the rise and fall of the fire. I wanted you to try to do it on your own so you can get your brain thinking about those different parts of the plot. And then I also wanted you to be able to check yourself, check your thinking by getting what we would consider probably the best way to answer this. So I just want to let you know right now that some of you might have slightly different pieces here and here, and we're going to talk about how you can still probably be correct if they're slightly different as long as certain components are in the right spot. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to type it in and you're going to be able to see, and I'll kind of discuss how each piece fits together. So let me share my screen. Here we go. Share. Okay, so I'll move Miss Doyle up, and I can't present because I need to be able to type. So let's zoom in to 100%. Okay. I did this last time too. So hold on a second. Thank you for your patience. All right, we're getting closer. Okay, that's close enough for now. So we're going to start with the exposition. Now, the exposition is where the author shows the setting and the characters. So we we're introduced to our characters and our setting. And so the beginning part of our story where we meet Rikki Tikki and how he ends up with the family in the garden is what we're going to write for this. So this is the way I phrased it, but as long as you have something that includes Rikki Tikki, maybe the humans, and ending up in the garden, that means you've gotten the exposition because we have our characters and we have our settings. So this is what I wrote. I have Rikki is saved by the humans after almost drowning, and he starts exploring the garden and the bungalow or house. All right, so that's our exposition. That's where we meet everybody, are the most important characters, and we actually do meet Nag and Nagina in there, and that's going to be our inciting event, because our primary conflict, which we talked about yesterday, is Rikki is fighting Nag and Nagina. And so the inciting event, what starts that conflict, remember, we need to know our conflict before we can know what starts our conflict. So our inciting event is when Rikki meets Nag and Nagina. And some students had something like when Nag is eating the egg, so eats Darcy's egg, you could have that in there too, but that kind of starts the conflict. That's where Rikki's like, oh, hey, this is a problem that I need to solve. And that is kind of what gets the conflict going, what gets the ball going, gets the ball rolling, if you will. So we're going to move up here, and on your sheet we only had 3 rising actions, and so you don't need to fill out this top one, but we'll get to that in a second. So the first thing that happens, and you might have slightly different ones here, but the first thing I had is Rikki kills Karit. And that's, there's some stuff that happens in between, but that's like the first point of action that kind of happens after he's investigating the house, is where he saves Teddy from the snake Karit. That's kind of the first big thing, and that's like also one of our minor conflicts, as we said yesterday. The next thing that happened is you could say like the humans take care of him after he does that. And he also meets Chachandra, which shows him that Nag and Nagina are still a big problem in this garden. The next one I have is, I think this is probably the most important thing right before our climax, is he overhears Nag and, Nagina's conversation about killing the humans. And so when he overhears the conversation, he knows that they're going to come to a battle because they want to dispose of the humans, and Rikki Tikki likes them. So this part is where you might have a slightly different answer. I know we don't have a fourth one, but I think it's kind of important for us to distinguish between the climax and what happens like right before it. So you could say the climax, the most exciting part, the turning point, is where Rikki kills Nag. But we talked about this yesterday in class, and maybe some of the students also talked about it, that doesn't solve the problem. When Rikki kills Nag, there's still a problem. What is that problem? Nagina. Nagina's still there. So if you had a fourth step, you could put Rikki kills Nag, because that's even upping the excitement. Even though, well, he doesn't kill Nag. Rikki is about to kill Nag, but say Rikki fights Nag, and Nag is killed by the human. You could put that there, but you don't have to, because that's kind of all wrapped into this climax. So I'm actually going to just blot that out. You don't need to do it because you only had 3. That's something you could put in there, though, is that step before the climax, which I think this is all pretty much included, is when Rikki kills Nagina. Because when Rikki kills Nagina, that whole scene where they're fighting, he goes down into the hole, he crushes the egg, like all of those pieces, that whole thing is your most exciting part. But the turning point, the actual thing that ends the conflict, is when he finally kills Nagina. So some students have been really specific, like it's when he comes out of the tunnel. And yes, that's true, but I think the whole scene of when Rikki is fighting Nagina and then he wins, that would be your climax. And that was your exit ticket. So yes, the climax of the story is when Rikki kills Nagina. Then that's why I said, like, Rikki killing Nag can't really be our climax, because there's still conflict. There's still something that has to be solved. So this is the turning point, because everything kind of relaxed after that. The tension is released. So you only had 2 spots, so we're going to ignore this one. And we're going to do 2 points in the falling action. So once he kills Nagina, it's a lot more relaxed. And the first thing that happens is Darcy, that silly bird, that silly tailor bird. Darcy, the tailor bird, I just like saying tailor bird, sings of Nagina's death. So he is like, he's flaunting it, he's bragging that Rikki has saved them from Nagina. And so another thing that happens, which is right after that, is all the animals celebrate. It's a party. So your falling action is you're right toward the end. So there's only a couple pieces in our falling action. And then the last piece, our resolution, is in that last paragraph. And it's where everybody's lives go back to normal, or the new normal. Rikki lives with the humans for many years and keeps the garden safe. That's where everything is resolved. That's where life goes on without this conflict. Okay, so you might have some slightly different ones, but the most important piece, and this is what I want you to pay attention to. We're going to zoom out. The most important piece is knowing the beginning, the middle, and the end. The exposition and inciting event, the climax, and the resolution. If you have slightly different rising actions and falling actions, that's okay, as long as they fit in between and you have your climax, the most exciting part. That's the piece that can be hard to identify, but it's also kind of the most important part of your story, because it's conflict begins, conflict is solved, and we go back to living our lives. End of the story. Okay, so that, if you're paying attention, is going to be part of your weekly assessment, and that's what I am looking for. So again, if you have slightly different rising actions or slightly different falling actions, as long as they fit in between the climax and the resolution, or the inciting event and the climax, you're pretty much okay. But this is probably what I would fill out as the best answers to fill out this plot diagram, okay? If you have questions, if you want to argue with me, I don't mind that at all. I would love to hear from you. And know that if you are in cohort A or B, like you come to school, cohort A, you are going to bring this to me on Monday, but you should finish it today because I gave you all the information. Cohort B, you're going to be turning it in to me today, so you're good to go. And you will be needing some of the stuff we learned this week. Actually, we need all of it for your weekly assessment. And so, but if you have your packet still with you, please don't use it for your weekly assessment, because I want to know what your brain knows, not just what your notes know, if that makes sense. Okay? Again, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out. I hope you have a phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful weekend. Enjoy the lovely fall weather. Happy October. And yeah, have a great day. Stop share. And